Now a long lead ahead up the near wall for Deschamps. He took a shove, pivoted away with it. He's got it, left circle. Wrapped it around deep for Chris Brown. A backhand score!
When I got into college, my wife and I we became good friends with some other hockey fans who we went to school with. So we all started going to the games together. And in 2006, when they made that first Calder Cup run, obviously not their first, they've had so many, but the first of the three, and I got to make sure I get this right. It was 3 and 5 years, 06, 09, and 2010. So yeah, 3 and 5 years. So it was when they, and they weren't a favorite that year, but they caught fire, and so we started going to all these playoff games, and that's when I really caught the hockey itch. There's something about seeing those games in person, and the playoff atmospheres were unbelievable. Still, I think my favorite one was Game 7 of the Eastern Conference Finals in 2006. The Bears had a lead in the series, and it almost got away. It went to Game 7, and they were down late in the third period. Graham Mings scored to tie it. We were right at the end of the ice where they shot twice in the first and the third period. So we were right there to see that goal. I remember watching him jump into the glass on the celebration. And then in overtime, Eric Fair had the game winner, and the place was everybody was on pins and needles. It was so quiet, and they were shooting at the other end, and you could hear the ring off the crossbar, and it went in, and just bedlam. And I remember Bruce Boudreau waddling out onto the ice, running and joining the celebration, and so we got hooked. We got hooked as hockey fans, and they had an unbelievable year the next year, and we went like every weekend, and just became big fans. Like, we had the jerseys and everything, and through all of that, I had a fan interest, but I also had a professional interest. I was a huge fan of John Walton and the way that he handled it on radio. So as a college student, I had reached out to him and asked him if I could possibly shadow for a game, and he invited me up and let me hang out in the booth and watch how he did things. And he became a really big mentor for me going forward. And actually, I had gotten to know some other people in that same regard, just networking and reaching out. And with the Phillies, they used to do their pregame show on the concourse. So I went up and introduced myself to Tom McCarthy one night, Scott Fransky another night, and those guys would then become guys that I could email and ask them questions about, how do you do this, how do you do that, and some other guys in that same sense. So when it came time for the Revs job, I felt I felt a little bad asking them to go to these lengths for me, but Joe Torin, my high school teacher, said, "Hey, you know these people. Why don't you see if they'd be willing to help you and write letters of recommendation for you?" So, all right, and lo and behold, they were willing to do that for me. So, all of these guys that I looked up to and were mentors of mine, they went to bat for me, and sent letters into the Revs, and I'll never forget that. I was very appreciative of that.